Hey everybody, this is Brad Dyke saying hi, and today we're going to do first our theoretical slash just idea thinking process, probably the right way of saying it. Yeah, it just depends how you look at it. Several of you guys have set out some things to me over the time, ranging from enjoying the videos to being able to sit back and relax a little bit on what we call the common nature of IT technologies. But a couple of you said something that was interesting to me, and I took kind of heed to it, and that was when you think of something or an idea, um, is it something of value? And, is there a risk? And is there an understanding? Now, I put out a video explaining that, morals and ethics are important. Let me explain. When you theorize ideas, or you're in your test lab and you're building something really cool, or you're working with a bit of code and something, you might discover that you've created something, right? Something really cool, really neat. Absolutely not a problem. And sometimes you can get carried away with it, and then you start to realize, this code could be malicious, or this using this hardware in a certain way could be intrusive, or worse. Yeah, I say that generally. There are two types of people in this world, and I'm not one of them for sure. And that is the one that first takes innovation and the ideas and great strategies, even reinventing old hardware into new things, in a positive way. It's important to be positive about what you're trying to do, because you have to understand anything you create, may it be a simple design attribute or something else, you have to weigh the weights and say, hey, can this be an evil thing? Not evil, but can it be a selfish thing, which can be considered evil, depending on how you try to get it, like wealth and so on, versus innovation versus success, and something that actually makes the world a little bit better place. So I said, you know what, that's a good question, and I'll answer that with a duality effect. Now, obviously the second personality is somebody who just doesn't give a damn, doesn't have morals or ethics, and they just want to create stuff so that they can make money for whatever they want in their own perverted kind of way of life. And it's very true, by the way. It does exist. You can't put your blinders on. But with that being said, okay, so the very first thing you got to have, and this is something that's important because a lot of third world countries don't have this, and this is an important detail. You have to have an innovating desire. Now, why did I say that? Why did I say third worlds? Well, because the third world countries of this world are focused on necessity, because they don't have things they need, and they're working on those things that they've got to have to survive. That's a notch effect. If you're farther and farther and farther down to it, like basically you're on a stranded island and there's nothing in there but a few trees and some items and rocks and you're on the very bottom totem pole of that scale. And you're struggling to drink water, get some food, take care of your basics. Above basics are necessities, such as you need to build better shelter, clothing, and so on and so on. And so on and so on. Now, as you go through the different types of countries, you've seen countries that have like dictators and stuff like that come in and they try to force innovation. They do terrible things to people to make them be more ingenious. But the problem is they've failed every single time. Same situation with more socialistic constructs of countries that are focused on the overall health of their people, having nothing to do with communism, by the way, and not the nature of the individuals. Again, it's not very productive when it comes to inspirational thinking and processes that get you to think in a different light. And by thinking in the different light, allows you to say, hey, I have a new idea. I can innovate. Now, in the worlds of the democracy environments, not necessarily critical in the nature of democracy, again, taking that out of the equation, but the nature of the freedom that we've already gotten across some of the key things in the world, necessities, the basics, and so on and so on and so on. Now we're at the point of innovation. And innovation is critical because it has to be a fostered environment. You have to create a positive supportable environment that does not result in terrible events like, your children being, sequestered and threatened if you don't get over this certain threshold, or bonuses that are unrealistic, those kind of things. It comes back to the basis of innovation is inspiration and gratifying all by itself. Very important detail. So, with that, you wonder why countries like Japan, who are pseudo kind of democratized, and other countries in the world that have really struggled with that battle, they're kind of right there almost, not quite, but they're really doggone productive. Productivity is part of innovation, because when you see productivity, it is intricate to the nature of those next steps. And you've got to have those next steps, which allow you to finally do the one thing you guys have always heard me talk about, and that is thinking outside the box. How do you take an old infrared emitter and turn it into something new, right? So on and so on. So with that being said, innovation comes with something else, and that is the nature of something. Now, if you understand the human spirit, if you understand our physical capacities, then you know this. One, in the middle, where we're absolutely neutral, we are neither really productive nor destructive. We call this a basic, bland personality and human being. They're just here. They just do the motions and do other things they need to do to get to the end of the day so they can sleep, eat, and so on. Now, that being the middle line, you have the left and you have the right. I don't want to use the words left and right because that can have connotations. Let's just simply say you have one direction, principally, or the other direction. And there are no more than those two directions. That's the key detail. Now, the processes of this, meaning that multiple tiers of processes, is that when you look at the personality, your capability is only as far as your positive nature versus the absolute negative nature. In other words, 100% positivity would take you all the way to the level of Jesus. A perfect man, perfect human, better term, because there's no derivative nature between men and women. A perfect human who is nothing but selflessness and always caring for everyone and showing innovation and producing all the things that are needed. Then you have the other direction, and that's a negative direction, and that is everything for you. Everything is yours. You must control everything. You must have ownership. You must not let anything be out of your grasp, because selfishly, as in for yourself, mine, it all has to be yours, including other people's lives, including the other people's, literally every aspect of people's lives. Now, granted, there have been very few of the very far-ended spectrums, but there's quite a bit in the middle. So, this discussion is about, again, touching base on understanding two very important details. I had to set the environment for you first to understand who you are. As if you've watched this video, you've now placed yourself somewhere on that graph, either in the middle or to the left or to the right or whatever direction you want to call it, but you're either a positive nature or you're a negative nature. Innovation doesn't care. That's the problem. Innovation can be on either side of that fence, because people who are selfish for themselves and are bad in nature live in the same society as those people who are positive and are good in nature. So this is where it begins to matter. Now, parents, if you're watching this, I'll say this to you now. Love your children. Don't ever enable your children. Enabling your children lead them to the potential of becoming selfish. You need to have them involved in their communities. You need them to have involvement in your family, and that you build a community sense around your children to graze them with morals and ethical responsibility in a positive light. Understand that as they grow up and become adults, their foundation of moral good versus evil, if you want to call it, foundation is something that will be worn against all their lives until the day they pass. And that's okay. That means you prepared them well and you armed them well. and they've come into the world ready to be a positive force, opposed to being an abused child who is injured or damaged by actions caused maybe by yourselves or others within your family or in the local community. We have to understand that anything we produce, create, or do can be turned into something evil. In other words, can be turned into something in a selfish nature. It's really important you understand this. Why am I bringing this up in the simple contents of an IT lab? Well, 97% of the things that have been created in our industry have been founded in a garage lab, like what you see behind me. So don't negate the environment. What's important is understand that when you do create something in the environment, that it has to have the most neutral nature in itself. Now, what am I talking about? When you're creating a device, may it be a simple device, as something that emits light, right? You thought it was pretty innocuous, right? But now we're using devices like this to shoot airplanes out of the sky. Do you see my concern? Now, don't get me wrong. Necessity is also in this game too, which means that no matter what we do, we actually are in a situation where we have no choice but to innovate a defense. If you're doing it that way, it's okay, because somebody has obviously innovated an offense against you because you have something they want, or they don't like the fact you exist, or they don't like how you worship, or something like that. That innovation is based on necessity and defense. It's understandable. But you have to understand everything that you create, may it be a reinventation of something in the background, it may be technology. There was a piece of hardware that was created that led to something referred to as Roman demon virus. So basically, a virus that could reposition itself on a hard drive over and over and over, so it was very difficult to locate. The initial goal was as a diagnostic tool to look for bad sectors on hard drives, and somebody bastardized it into a weapon so that they can make a mark in the world and say, ha ha ha, I have control of your stuff. That's pitiful, it really is. So I have this discussion with you now because what I'm about to tell you is very important and is very much incredibly almost like a secret, but it's not a secret. It's so common that we don't seem to remember it. And I think that has something to do with the good Lord above, because he wants to make sure that certain people never have the ability of knowing this. But I think in reality, we all know it. We just don't want to come back to remember it. So what do I mean? Okay. We've talked about good and evil in the nature of anything, including technology. We've had the discussion about the nature of ethics and morality when it comes to building technology. Now, the last part of this is two parts. One, if you're building something to defend for yourself, bless your heart. Somebody's put you in a bad situation and you're trying to innovate your way out of it so that you're still alive. And I would defer that to people like in Ukraine who've taken really basic technology and just have our technology, have flipped our technology into weaponized platforms and used it in a defensive nature against the Russians. Now, I will say that my heart goes out to the Ukrainians. That was wrong what Putin did. And, what Putin did was selfish. It was to save his own vision, which wasn't the vision of his own people. I mean, it's obvious because so many Russians have ran away from Russia to get away from Putin's inspirational, injection of itself into the Ukrainian people. The Ukrainian people are quite a unique people, and they've got my praise and prayers. But with that being said, the Ukrainians did something right. They had the right mindset when they did it. They wouldn't use this as an offensive weapon. They used this as a defensive mechanism to get the aggressors out of their place, out of their lands, out of their territories. Now, with that being said, there are others who are now trying to do the same thing in reverse to take over Ukraine so that they can end the conflict as effectively as possible. And they have not quite nearly as good as the Ukrainians. And again, my hat's off to the Ukrainians, because they had the right mindset when they started, where these other people are threatened by their governments. If they don't get it right, they're going to be X, Y, Z, or whatever will happen to them. But if you notice that what I'm talking about is somebody introduced something into this environment to defend for themselves. Their heart was in the right place. when somebody introduces the same kind of approach, but to be an attacker, an aggressor. China, all of these different places that are providing these resources, they're doing it for selfish reasons. They're doing it because they have a chance to test their technology to see, hey, maybe this will work really well. Here's a battlefield. All of these justifications are the wrong reasons. Now, the key detail I'm going to bring to your attention right now is an eye-opener, because you have to understand how important it is. Has anyone ever heard the term that if you understand E equals mc squared, you understand the universe? No? No takers? Well, Einstein was right. If you understand E equals mc squared, you can truly understand the nature of the universe. What is E equals mc squared? Well, it's a definement. It's a human set of instructions to define something that which we have in our mind. Now, to that might make sense to some of you. Probably most of you will say, what the heck are you talking about? Let me put it in a different way. When you think of something, because you have thought it out, and the more detail you think it out, the more probability that it can come into existence. Yeah, it's very true. We want and we think, and therefore we move to create. Everything from the coolest, neatest gadgets we saw 70 years ago to inspirational thoughts, such as magnetic inversion field theories. You see, these things don't exist, technically speaking, until we can bring contents to what they are, until we can give structure to what they are. Magnetic inversion field generation is a highly suspect form of technology, but it's absolutely right there in front of our face and happens all the time naturally. Until somebody put words to it and formulated what it meant, it began to help us understand the nature of other things in a, how would you say, stairway to heaven of technology of sorts. The key thing is you can genuinely think out anything thanks to innovation being in your life. You can see things in a whole different light. And you have the ability of making anything you believe in potentially a reality. So here we go. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of this discussion. If you're developing a technology, or let's say, oh gosh, we're using a device that if we continue to use it, it will be doomsday for us. Why? Well, because in your head, you made that discussion and you thought it out to the point where you could physically see the nature of how this dangerous whatever could be the doomsday of our world. Your thinking that process out has a lot to making that happen. So my recommendation on that front is don't think about it. Remember, why would you want to think about doomsday? Now, that's a good question, because some people do want doomsday, because maybe they live in a tortured life. You have to honor and respect that nature and respect those people, because they're in pain and the world is not a perfect place. So as kind of deep as this sounds, the most important thing you've got to realize is make sure that you're doing anything you bring to the table for the world to use with the utmost capacity of being solid and positive in nature. And it was really difficult for it to become something that can be perverted into a terrible thing, because perversion is real. It's all over the place. Though it's a small majority of who we are, it's there and it will always be there, because that's just the nature of the human nature itself. We can be horrible people. Equally, we can be terribly great people. I said terrible because it's that far that way as it is that far this way in the nature of who we are. So with that being said, this discussion kind of comes back from somebody who's said, hey, talk a little bit more about this, because it's starting to make sense to them. And I get that. That's cool, because I'm glad people are thinking that way, because things like AI intelligence, I did a discussion about AI, and I did a discussion about several other types of technologies that are now being used by these entities, let's just call them entities, to take advantage of you. It's again, another scam. Hey, we can steal more money from people by making us look like we're the president of the United States, or some stupid justification in their heads because they think since they can, they can. That's right. That's the other part of our life. Why did somebody do that stupid thing? Because they can. Isn't that terrible? But it's deferred to another term. It's choice. That's right. The right to choose your path in your life as a human being. Some people choose to be maniacal and need to have what you own, may it be money, status, or whatever. All you have to do is look at the multimedia world out there and the social medias. You can see those people struggling to get clicks, but they're faking everything they can because they personally, selfishly want your attention, to click their click because they can have 1 million clicks in a media form like Facebook or YouTube or whatever. When I came to YouTube to do what I'm doing, I did it on the principle to help people out, to give them videos, to show them technology, how to take all these bits and pieces and parts and parts and turn them into something really impressive. With that being said, this is Brad Dyke. I wanted to talk to this because there was a big ask for this, apparently. I was surprised. Yes, there are ethics and there are morals, and if you can think it, it means it's a very high probability that it can exist. Put all those three things together, hopefully you make the right choices in your life as you try to bring whatever you think is valuable to our world, industry-wise. And this way I'll say, God bless, take care, have a great week. Bye-bye.